Dakota Destinations on Midco Sports Network is presented by VisitPierSD.com.
Welcome to Dakota Destinations. This is the final episode of this season, and with our final run, we're going to take you to North Dakota for a sky full of fun, and then we're going to end back here in the state of South Dakota to introduce you to a Midwest photographer that proves most any road in the Midwest can be an intriguing destination. We start our journey north in Fort Stephenson, where the annual Sky Fest is held. The event takes place over Memorial Day weekend and attracts kite flyers of all ages. Midco Sports' Greg Ankers joins us now for our final destination in North Dakota.
It's an activity that can take some patience, some skill, and maybe even a little help from Mother Nature. But when the combination comes together, it can be a whole lot of fun. Welcome to Sky Fest, an annual kite festival held in Fort Stephenson State Park, just outside of Garrison, North Dakota, each and every Memorial Day weekend. It's a 3-day event that decorates the prairie sky along the shore of Lake Sakakawea, and the beauty it emits has fueled a family fun atmosphere that has provided longevity to a festival continuing to grow over the past 2.5 decades.
24 years ago on this particular weekend, a lady by the name of Deb Lenzen, who was a local counselor here at the school, decided to get some of her kite flying buddies together and start flying kites here. And each year it grew a little and a little more and a little more and a little more until it grew into a full-fledged family fly kite festival.
Rena Rusted took over running the event 4 years ago after the event's founder retired and moved away. As an owner of Prairie Wind Kite Company and having worked at Skyfest for several years prior, Rena's experience and passion has grown this festival into what it has become today.
This is an amazing turnout. I think the driving factors are family is really becoming important in North Dakota because of the whole Bakken thing, and people are looking for things to do with their family. I mean, yeah, anybody can go to a basketball game or they can go to summer camp, but to come out for a weekend and do things together like this, it's kind of unique almost anymore.
While kite flying may not be the first summer fun activity to cross your mind, Skyfest defines how popular it actually is, with around 1,500 participants showing up on an annual basis, and each with their own defining draw to this exercise in the sky.
I think probably to me, it's the power. This is free. If you looked out here today, there's sailboats out here. Those guys are paying nothing for the fuel, and they're having just as much fun as the guys are doing with fuel. There's an awesome amount of power in this moving mass of air up here.
Being sort of connected to nature, that I used to sort of hate wind. The only thing I hate now is rain. As long as there's wind, and I've got scalable kites so I can fly, and when you feel the wind going across the back of your neck and across your arms and you see something moving fast in the sky, that's what really intrigues me.
The art of kite flying dates back more than 2,000 years, and today's cycle for being a tethered aviator seems to be as consistent as the history behind it.
Well, yeah, usually what happens, the story is the person's 8 or 13 and they get out of kites, and then you're 42, 45 and you get back into it. I'm not sure why that is.
Well, you know, we laugh in kite circles. You fly kites until you're 8 years old, and then you go and do other things and you start again when you're 40, and the toys get bigger as you go along.
And the participation here rings true. There's definitely a youth movement to help foster and continue SkyFest well into the future.
You know, in this world, so many of these kids are in a digital world. We bring the analog world to them.
Were you excited to come
Yes.
out? Why were you so excited to come out today?
Because I thought my mom just teach me, so I thought I knew how. But now,
Is this your first time flying a kite?
no, my second.
Second time? Is it
But-
easy or hard?
Easy since I know how.
I just do it on my time, some of the times, sometimes.
Is it hard?
Yeah,
Yeah. What advice would you give to somebody that was just starting out to fly a kite?
probably start out with an easier kite.
What do you like about flying kites?
Well, I like that you could do tricks.
Yeah? Can you do tricks?
Yeah,
You can?
I could do cartwheel myself.
Really? Oh my goodness.
If you don't get the young kids interested in this, you know, it's like any other thing, whether it's a threshing show or parade stuff or anything like that, it dies. So, but you know, there's kids from, 3 to 93 out here flying kites, and that's one thing that's really great about kite flying.
And if you've ever wondered how to get yourself involved in the world of wind aeronautics, it's as easy as, well, flying a kite.
Well, the best thing to do, either attend a festival or if you see someone flying on the weekend, is come and talk to them. Every kite flyer loves to chat. And you might say to them, oh, I like that style. How much did it cost? Oh, you made it yourself. How difficult is it to make it? Can you make one for me? Or maybe you just help them launch it a couple weekends. Next thing you know, that you're making some and you're flying them. And so you go from an amateur to a professional very quickly.
Number one, bring the kids. Come and talk to the flyers. Come and talk to the kite flyers. And we'll get you started, and we'll keep you safe.
Safety can be paramount when flying a massive apparatus over hundreds of heads. And when we come back on Dakota Destinations, we'll introduce you to one prize in the sky that takes a full team to keep under control.
Dakota Destinations on Midco Sports Network is presented by VisitPierSD.com. Dakota Destinations on Midco Sports Network is presented by VisitPierSD.com.
It's day one of SkyFest, a kite festival at Fort Stevenson State Park just outside Garrison in central North Dakota. Paul Newcomb has made the nearly 300-mile trek from Aberdeen, South Dakota as an invited professional to the event. And while many here consider Paul to be a pro, he's quick to point out it's really just a pleasurable pastime.
I've been at it for a lot of years, been doing the festival thing for just a couple, 3 years now. It's probably have 30 kites that are in excess of 200 square feet. So kind of got into it in a big way. Have trailer and van totally dedicated to kites. And we do it just as a hobby.
The atmosphere is decorated with kites that are big and small, short and tall. But one kite dominates the skyline.
Big one's name is Hobo. Hobo is an acronym for Harry Osborne, who was the gentleman deceased now. The late Harry Osborne made the kite originally in 1986. So that kite is 30 plus years old. The gentleman who ended up with it and did some modifications to the kite is a Texan named Barry Ogletree. So Harry Osborne Barry Ogletree, it became Hobo. It has been known for many years as Pee-wee. I renamed it because I wanted to, acknowledge the kite's history. And we've done some modifications to it. I've created a flying system that big kite can be really dangerous. And so I've created what I feel is a very safe flying system for it. And all of the big kite people that I've been around have gone, this is how we need to do it. So I feel pretty confident in flying it.
The behemoth takes a half dozen people to fly it and measures the size of a single family home.
That kite is 40 feet across the bottom, or across the front of it. Down the side, it's 60 feet long. It's roughly 2,200 square feet plus tails. And that's just the bottom surface area. There is, of course, another surface area and all the verticals in there. So catching the wind, probably 4,900 square feet of nylon up there. The kite, at its max range, I would get really nervous with that kite in 20-mile-an-hour winds. I mean, and I'm not sure that we'd get it back down, to be real honest with you. Safety system that we can dump it in an emergency if we need to. And that would be the only way it would come down, and it would sustain considerable damage. If I had to replace that kite today, I'd spend somewhere between $40,000 and $60,000. Yeah, there's over 1 million stitches in it. If you take the molecular weight, and we've figured the volume of that kite, if you take the molecular weight of air inside that kite, there's over a ton of air on the inside of that kite. That's an awesome amount of power. It's an awesome amount of power. It is the largest sport paraform in the world. Capable of pulling, we fly it on 10,000 pound line. And we have moved my Jeep around with it. I've got a 4-door Wrangler, and we moved the Jeep around on the ground with it. It was time to bring it down that day.
A truly one-of-a-kind sight at a one-of-a-kind event. But while Hobo may be the biggest thing to hit this year's Sky Fest, event organizer Rena Rusted has plenty in store for the future of the event. And while she's not giving up the details just yet, you can rest assured the wow factor will continue to go up.
I have some ideas in plan for the next few years. Next year is our 5th year. I have some hoops to jump through for what I have planned for that one. And if I can get those hoops jumped through, it'll be pretty spectacular.
And that kind of tease is sure to keep these kite enthusiasts returning to Sky Fest in the future.
Thanks to Midco Sports' Greg Ankers for that story. Well, up next, we end the season with Christian Begeman, who shares his vantage point of the Midwest. We'll be right back.
Dakota Destinations on Midco Sports Network is presented by VisitPierSD.com.
Welcome back to Dakota Destinations. Christian Begeman is known as the Special Projects Coordinator for the marketing team at Midco, but he's also known nationally for capturing some of the grandest photos of the Midwest. Here's an exclusive look at his off-road adventures. It all starts with brief encounters, small moments that lead us to our callings in life. Those moments develop into interests and later into dreams that others help us process with encouragement. For Christian Begeman, it started at an early age in his hometown, Isabel, South Dakota. It was the experience of seeing a fall afternoon through the eye of a lens that sparked an initial interest.
My mom had a point-and-shoot camera, and at one point she wanted to develop the film, but there was still room left on the film, and being the, prudent folks that we were, it's like, you better go fill out the roll before we send this in. So me and my little brother, when it was fall, we went out to the creek and we took what I thought were cool fall photos of the color in the trees, and everybody seemed to like them. And
a collaboration of moments that led Christian to the art of capturing moments in the Midwest. Those Midwest moments started in the sports realm in a time where action shots taken were few and far between.
Played sports in high school, and this was in the late 80s, early 90s. And it was a big deal to see a picture of yourself playing sports. We had a weekly newspaper, and of course, whenever there was a sports photo, it was very rare, but it was really cool. Photos by their very nature freeze time. And if you can freeze a moment in time that shows a story, or shows emotion, or shows the passion that is involved with the athletes, I think that's what really speaks to me. Some of the best sports photos I've taken are the team on the bench cheering after a great play. It's not necessarily the great play, but it's that emotion, it's that story. That's what I like.
Sports photography was how Christian practiced, how he refined his skills, and although capturing fast-paced competition remained one of his interests, there was always an internal pull to take his camera back outdoors. And when he decided to take his talents to the fields, that's when his work started to come alive to teach him about the world.
I grew up out on a farm/ranch, so I love being outside. I'm used to being outside. But just to get back out and get in touch with nature was the first appeal. I'm the kind of guy that I want to know. If I take a picture of something, I'm not going to say, here's a photo, I hope you enjoy it. I want to tell a little bit about it. Okay, where it is, what's going on, what kind of flowers are in it, what kind of animal, what kind of bird. In doing so, I come across things that I didn't know about, but I learned about because I'm like, what am I taking a photo of? Is it rare? I've never seen this before. What is this?
Christian's work first appeared online in the South Dakota Magazine's website as a monthly column. His images spoke and continue to speak to people's perception of the Midwest, whether it disproves rumors of boring back roads or reconnects adults to fond childhood memories. Feedback comes with every photo shared, but it's the personal motives that keep him inspired.
Going out on photography shoots is kind of a release for me. It's a time to get away, a time to recharge. So if I'm at home on a rainy weekend, I get antsy and I want to go out. But it kind of does depend on the weather. In the winter time, you can't go out as much because the daylight isn't as long. By 4 o'clock or 4:30, it's dark out. So in the wintertime, it's every weekend if I can. In the summertime, the days are longer and it might be 3-4 times a week that I go out.
National Geographic is renowned for incredible photos and inside stories. Those two elements alone caught Christian's eye early on, but nothing could have prepared him for the day that his work caught their attention. A photo taken in Wyoming was published in National Geographic's Daily Dozen in 2010. An abandoned house window looks out to unfathomable peaks, almost predicting Christian's future success with the publication. His dedication to continue his outdoor visits amplified, and the backroads became more of a roofless sanctuary for him to explore. Those roads less traveled led to actual sanctuaries, which inspired a project and stretched his craft to new lengths.
Things that I've also gotten into lately is star photography, night astrophotography is what it's called. And that has to be in the middle of the night when it's pitch black out and no clouds. But it sounds like, oh, you're kind of crazy for doing that, but if you've ever stood under a South Dakota sky away from the city at night, you'll know what I mean. It's really quite breathtaking. This photo actually was published in an online National Geographic column. It was shot up by Mud Butte, South Dakota. It's this little country church that I went up there specifically just to get the Milky Way above it. When I got there, someone had left the light on inside, which was a happy accident. And then I decided since I was there, I might as well shoot a sequence of photos and do a time lapse, because another thing that I like to do on the video side is time lapse. So I shot over 3 hours of photos of the stars moving over the church. And then when I came back, I merged all the photos together into a composite image and to show the stars movement. And in the middle, I showed just the core of the Milky Way, and I submitted this to an assignment on Nat Geo called After Midnight, and it was published. And it was really interesting to see people from around the world commenting on it.
His photography tells a story unique to every new viewer, but it also comes with stories that have already been written.
I've almost stepped on rattlesnakes before. I've been probably too close to buffalo before, but you know, I just think some of the better stories, even though this is my alone time and my time to be alone, some of the better stories are the people that you meet along the way. For instance, I remember taking a photo of a grand old church in Strandberg, South Dakota, and 80-something-year-old gentleman from across the street came over and said, "Hey, what are you up to?" And I told him, he's like, "You want a tour? I got the key, let me go get it." So we had a nice 20-minute conversation. He told me about how the church was burned down at one time, and when he was a kid, he remembered them building it back up again. And so it's just stuff like that where you kind of meet the people out there sometimes, and that's the kind of stories that stick with you.
Adventures await every dusty back road. It's seeking out new lighting after a storm. It's a hunt for the South Dakota pass flower before the dawn of spring. It's staying up all night to catch sight of the northern lights. It's his photography that makes you slow down and appreciate life that sometimes gets confused for the mundane. Although you think this line of photography is a slower pace antic for Christian than the sports photography he started out shooting, there's an art and an athletic skill that goes far beyond framing these picturesque scenes.
You'd think it's a complete opposite, right? Sports, everything's moving fast. You have to understand the game, know where the ball's gonna be, you know, try to capture that emotion, that passion, and be on your toes, have a really fast camera. And you know, nature, like, it doesn't happen as fast, but you'd be surprised how I've been more athletic getting nature shots than I ever have getting sports shots, because there are times when the sunlight is changing or the cloud is moving just so, and you're like trying to get to the spot. You're trying to get to the spot where the rock is in the foreground or the windmill's in the foreground. And so I'm running while I'm adjusting my camera and everything, and I get there just in time and get the shot, and then I'm like, yes.
Like an artist waiting to be moved by their surroundings, so does Christian let desolate roads direct his work. The lighting, the weather, the season, that's what leads him every time he gets behind the wheel.
We don't have the mountains, right? We don't have the ocean, but South Dakota and the Midwest has great skies, wide open vistas. And not only that, there's cool things to put in the foreground in front of them, like barns or country churches or prairie windmills that I kind of like to use as perspective and to give that feel of farm country or the Midwest. And a lot of that stuff, when you're driving down the interstate at 80 miles an hour, you may not notice, or it may go by so fast. But when you're back on the county roads, driving slow, driving 30, 40 miles an hour, and you stumble across these great scenes, to me, that's what makes South Dakota a great destination for photos.
His photography attests that beauty can be found in a lifeless South Dakota winter, that skies are a form of artwork all their own, and that a soul can whisper from behind a lens, even from a lost, nameless road in the Midwest. Thanks again to Christian for letting us share his story behind his incredible work. If you'd like to view more of his work, you can visit his Facebook page at Prairie Sanctuaries or any of the websites that are listed below. That's all we have for you this season. Thanks for joining us on Dakota Destinations.